Alright, you guys, so today I want to make a super quick video for you talking about addressing envy, insecurities, and judgment. And so there's two ways to start off here, right? So the obvious one is when you notice these things in others, right? Their envy, or in other words, their jealousy, insecurities, or judgment from them, right? And that could come in the form of in person, or a YouTube comment, or Instagram comments. Like people do too much worrying about what others think, and basically you kind of unlock this superpower once you stop doing that. Now, in terms of actually addressing it, my number one recommendation for you would be learn to manage your emotions first, right? Like easy to be calm, easy to be happy all the time. So when someone does something like that, especially in person, you can kind of just very calmly like look at them and just continue to smile, like, oh, like what makes you say that? Or what's the reason for that? You know, like how come you say that? Or like the funny one, it's like the therapist meme, right? Like, and how does that make you feel? Right? Like, and I'm not saying to be like condescending or weird when you do it. Just like neutral, very neutral tone. Like, oh, what makes you say that? And what makes you say that? You see what I'm saying? Like, because then you'll probably figure out, like, if you keep doing stuff like that, they'll reach a point where they'll calm down and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's kind of a dumb thing to say, even if they don't admit it. Right? They'll kind of back off. And also, it's important for you to know that any of those things, like their jealousy, envy, insecurities, judgment, it all comes from a place of insecurity, right? I mean, to state the obvious, but like, the negativity never comes from a positive place. So maybe they're having a tough time in their life. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe things have been rough lately. So realistically, it says more about them than it does you. Now, on the flip side, maybe they're not insecure, right? Maybe you think that they're judging you for some reason, and you're like making this up in your head. Because like I know a lot of people will walk around and like they'll be afraid to do something, or they'll do something and then be worried about like this person that saw it or something like that, right? And it's like, oh, that person, they look like they were judging me, right? Like, but maybe they're a really nice person, right? Like which actually makes this funny, because then it just shows that you are being insecure, which again sort of states the obvious, but I don't think people remember that enough when they're doing these things, basically. So number one, a way of addressing it, if you do get it, is what I talked about earlier. This very neutral, like what made you want to say that? Or something like that. Or you could simply just not acknowledge it. Just stay calm. You don't need to react to them. No response is also a response. You can just kind of look at them like, right? And that's the whole thing about this, is realizing that it's not about you. Like just being unaffected by this. Now, and I want to be very clear here, because sometimes there's a big difference between constructive criticism and positive feedback and the insecure judgment stuff, right? Because sometimes I think the insecurity and all those things, like, it comes from like a negative tone in their approach. But usually you'll have like a really good friend if they're willing to be like, hey man, like, do you mind if I like give you some feedback about something? And they'll say, hey, like, you've been doing really good in these areas. It's just this one thing. Seems like maybe you could use a little bit of improvement here. Like, it seems like this. That's the best way you can put it, right? Because then you can kind of open up a conversation and figure out a way to solve it and improve. Now, I know this might all sound like super obvious, but I think a lot of people don't have the level of emotional control that they actually want. So it's hard for them to constantly be calm, at peace, in a state of joy or happiness, right? It's always like anxiety, worried about what other people think, frustrated, upset, sad, right? Like whatever it is. Because if you return to the calm, then it's just like, it's easy to remain unaffected and also take constructive and positive criticism. And again, there's a big difference between that and like sort of like a gremlin, like sort of like a crabs in a bucket mentality, or like a goblin kind of like they're like, oh, like they're just like a negative comment. Those two things are way different. And I know I've been on a little bit of tangent here, but I've kind of talked about this stuff in a previous video, so I just want to address this by itself in its own video and hope that even though this was a little bit of a tangent, that you were able to take something from it and it'll help you in future interactions, right? I mean, even for me, like, I usually just choose not to interact with those sorts of things. Like, I've had like funny like YouTube comments, and it's like here's a good way. Here's a good way to end the video too, and a good way to think about it. It's like, if they were in a really good, positive mindset, everything's going well, would they have really taken the time to be negative towards you, or make like some kind of weird comment, or even comment on a YouTube video at all? Right? I mean, of course, like the supportive comments are nice, but like oftentimes it's like a black hole going into like a comment section on a YouTube video or Instagram or some kind of social media. Like, it's almost not worth it sometimes, right? Like, it's just better to watch the video and then maybe talk to your friend about it, or just like think about it, figure out what's true for the video for you, and basically take the useful bits of information and move on. Because again, right, like the best way for you to think about this, whether it's a comment online or in person, it's like, how must they be feeling right now to be acting like that? And usually it makes you realize, like, oh, maybe they're not in the best place right now. So like, you actually have some empathy for them, and you can move through it in a positive manner. There we go. I hope this helps for you. Thank you for watching, and you got this, bro.